Hello, and welcome to Scenes from the Screen, the film-focused show for all ages, where we cover movies that flicker to life on screens both big and small. You'll find everything from comedy to horror, cult classics to major studio franchises, big budget to independent, theater releases, streaming premieres, and everything in between. Stick around and you might discover a new gem or be reintroduced to an old forgotten favorite. My name is Sean, and I'll be your host. Well, we're back with another episode, and joining me again is my lovely wife, Holly. Say hello, Holly.
Hello, Holly.
Oh, well, that's perfect. So today's is going to be a little bit bittersweet. We were actually going to save this one, but unfortunately, we recently found out that a good friend of ours passed away a few weeks ago, someone I've known for almost 20 years. We were close friends in Vegas. We kept in touch over the years, texting almost every day about movies, music, sports, almost anything. So it comes as a real loss to me. You find so few people in this life who, you can talk to on a regular basis like that. Thank God one is right here next to me. But it's a huge loss nonetheless, because he was, I don't keep many people close, at least that close, but to talk on a daily basis like that. But, he definitely a great guy. And so he will be missed. He will be missed. And I know Holly knew him not as well, but you did know him.
Yeah, he was a great guy. He loved dogs, especially big dogs. And anyone who cares about their dogs that much is a good person,
right?
No matter what.
Yeah, he was
awesome.
Absolutely great with dogs. I remember babysitting his dogs when he was away for a few days when we lived in Vegas, and they were perfectly trained. For me to come in as almost a stranger and listen to me and be that good, he was really, really good with his dogs. And I'm sorry I missed his 50th birthday last year unfortunately with my illness, but I haven't seen him in a while. But it's just a definite loss. And one of the reasons I picked this movie is because now it wasn't our go-to movie together. That would be Wedding Crashers or Anchorman. But he was one of the few people that really loved this movie, that kind of knew the lines to it and just appreciated it as much. And I know Holly does as well.
Yes, I do.
Yeah. So that's one of the things that, we learned about each other when we first started dating, is that she loved Grosse Pointe Blank.
Yes, I love Grosse Pointe Blank. So, I really like, and his name is
John Cusack? John Cusack, right. Yeah, John Cusack's fantastic in anything.
Yeah. Our age group, you grow up with John Cusack.
Absolutely. Well, if those of you who don't know Grosse Pointe Blank, John Cusack plays a hitman who goes back to his 10th high school reunion. When he was in high school, apparently alluded to in the film, he was this very intelligent student, and they expected great things from him, and he vanished before the end, because he stood up his date on prom night. So he is, like I said, he's a hitman, and at one point, his secretary gives him, to make amends for a missed hit, something that went wrong, he's forced to take on an assignment that just happens to be in Detroit, which is right near Grosse Pointe. Now, normally I would say that's kind of a forced plot twist, but when you find out what the assignment is, it plays into the story.
Right.
So, that's just, like I said, it's a great little twist, I think.
Well, it did give him the reason to go to the reunion, which he wasn't going to do.
Right. Yeah, he absolutely was not going to go to that reunion. And it's got a fantastic cast.
Amazing cast.
Minnie Driver in this movie is one of my what?
Favorite girlfriends.
No, one of my top 5 movie girlfriends. Mm-hmm. She's fantastic. She's great in this movie. It's such a well-written film, written by George Armitage, who worked for Roger Corman a lot, as I found out. And I did record a movie unknowingly that he had written, and it was called Gas. However, we started watching that, and it was really not. I guess you really had to be there for the hippie counterculture.
Yeah. But it was not a good movie.
No, it was really not.
It wasn't even good enough to make fun of.
Right, yeah. At that point, it wasn't. So, but he also directed Miami Blues back in 1990, which I remember not hating, but not loving either. So he's the director of this film. Again, Cusack's in it. His 2 sisters are in it. Michael Cudlitz.
Jeremy Piven's
in it. Alan Arkin.
The blonde.
Jenna Elfman.
Jenna
Elfman's in it. Just an amazing cast of characters for this. And like I said, he plays the hitman who goes back, and he tells everybody what he does, and nobody believes him because they think he's joking.
Right.
Which I think is hysterical.
Right. Well, the way he says it too, and it's John Cusack. He's very dry, and his lines are very quick. It's almost like quick one-liners.
Right.
He doesn't say I'm a hitman. He always says I'm a hired killer, a professional killer.
A professional killer. Right. He said he freaked out after high school. He joined the army, and he worked for the government.
Right.
and he eventually became a
business for himself.
Went a business for himself, right?
He's a professional killer.
So the one thing I noticed this time about watching, I never really thought about before, but I mean, maybe it is because, you know, this is in honor of our friend, but I noticed there was a lot of fate in this film.
Yes.
There's a lot of talk about fate, which is, again, I never noticed it before, you know, kind of, you know, you think it's kind of jokingly, but it actually starts with, and I just heard the song on the radio the other day and I didn't connect it until later. I didn't connect it in the movie while we were watching the movie, but the first song is I Can See Clearly Now by Johnny Nash.
That's an interesting to think that's the first one, because this is in the movie, you see the character change a lot and he becomes like a better person.
Right.
Because he's retiring from the professional killer and he wants to have a life again. And so that's I didn't put that together at all.
Yeah, and like I said, it didn't hit me until I was in the car listening to it. I said, boy, I always love that song, and whenever I hear that song, I think of that movie.
Right.
But yeah, because he's at a crossroads. You know, he's again at the 10th reunion, 10th year reunion from high school. I guess it kind of forces you to rethink things like where am I going? Where have I been? What's going on, you know, in my life? But you know, other things about fate in there too, when they use The Killing Moon by Echo and the Bunnymen, which is a really good song about fate as well. His secretary also mentions that she gets a feeling he's supposed to go back to his reunion. But one of the other things I really thought about was his character reminded me of Anton Chigurh, played by Javier Bardem in No Country for Old Men, because John Cusack at several points in the film as the hitman,
interesting connection.
He says, I show up at your door, chances are you did something to bring me here.
Right.
And in a way, he's like Anton Chigurh, because Chigurh said something very similar. He chalked everything up to fate in No Country for Old Men. So maybe a hired killer thing, a hitman thing, that they feel that way?
It might be just a way to validate why you're killing people.
That's
justify
true.
It to yourself.
Well, that's in Chigurh's case, yes, it was. But
I think
in Cusack's case, I think he did, but I don't think he believes it anymore.
Well, he doesn't anymore, but like he said, that validates his job. You know,
right.
He in his mind, he doesn't kill innocent people. He kills only bad people. You know, if you did something bad to someone and that's why I'm here, you know, I'm not a random murderer. But in the same token, you're still someone who kills people. But he's trying to make it sound like it's not as bad as that.
And that it's not up to him, because when he kills the one guy, the guy says to him, whatever it is I'm doing, I'll stop doing it. Right. And Cusack says, it's not me.
It's not me. Right.
He's just basically like a, you know, he doesn't bear responsibility for anything. Right. It's not. But I think that really weighs on him, you know, through it has been, because he's getting to this point where, and I think the high school reunion really, really kind of puts that into perspective. But, you know, even his secretary, again, played by Joan Cusack, she's fantastic in it.
She's my favorite movie with her in it. Her in a movie.
Yes.
This is my favorite.
Yeah. I mean, she was really good in and Out as well. But I think, this for me is a pinnacle Joan Cusack. Right.
And they only have really one scene together where they're actually on camera together.
Right. They talk a lot.
Right. But they're you can feel their natural chemistry immediately with the two of them. They're back and forth. The way Joan Cusack, the way his secretary and him talk to each other.
Yes.
It's very, like they have a very odd relationship.
Right.
But for a secretary and something, but knowing who they are, the actors, you're like, that's brother and sister. And they talk to each other like brother and sister. And they have such a natural way of doing it. Even when they have the scenes where they're just on the phone. I just couldn't wait for him to talk to her.
Absolutely. Yeah, and his little dig at her, which he's wearing too, which is, we don't ruin it because it is a very funny. You have to see it.
Yeah.
But also his relationship with Jeremy Piven, who plays a co-graduate, like he graduated with, friend. Right? Yeah. Yes, high school buddy, and another person that one of the co-writers of the film, Steve Pink, plays a security guard that he works in the housing development. Yeah, I mean, like I said, the character is so well drawn that it's amazing. And like I said, the banter back and forth. Even Alan Arkin is his psychiatrist.
Right.
That's a relationship that I would love to have seen in a way more of not in the movie, but I'd love to see almost what happened before that.
Right.
In a couple sessions.
Well, they do talk about that, how the psychiatrist doesn't want him as a client, keeps trying to not have him. And he keeps telling him, I don't want to be your psychiatrist anymore, but yet you keep coming back. And I really like that back and forth with them.
Yes.
When he says that to him, he goes, I told you I can't treat you anymore. And every week you come back. So he was really funny in it. He really, we forgot about Dan Aykroyd too.
Oh, that's right. Dan Aykroyd's in it.
Yeah. And Hank Azaria.
Hank Azaria. Hey, Todd Freeman, who played Mr. Trick in Buffy. Again, like you could just, everyone is a known face. Carlos Jacot, who was he was in Firefly, he was in Seinfeld, he played the pool guy in Seinfeld.
Oh yeah. Yes.
Like I said, there are so many people in this, and you may not know them by name. Unfortunately, I do because I commit that weird stuff to memory, but yeah, you would know them by their face. Yeah, I totally forgot about Dan Aykroyd. Like that's how good this cast is.
Right.
But yeah, he plays a kind of a nemesis he wants to get Cusack's character, Martin Blank, to join his little, I guess almost like a union for hitmen.
Right.
So that they can avoid all this stuff that's been going on.
Yeah. And just seeing Dan Aykroyd as a hitman is just hysterical because that's so off brand for him.
Exactly.
To play that type of role. And he kind of plays a real jerk. And, and like he's this big tough guy, and that's just not your Dan Aykroyd feeling, but he does it very, very well.
He does. Yeah. This is one of my favorite movies with him in it. Mm-hmm. And I know it wasn't really a direct sequel, but it was called War Incorporated. I've never seen that. I almost don't want to because this movie ended perfectly.
Yeah, I won't want to.
Maybe someday I will, but it didn't get as good reviews as this film. And again, this film is, not a lot of people know about it. They may have heard the name. And in fact, I just mentioned it to someone earlier today, like, I haven't seen that in a while. And I don't know why it's not held in higher regard because it is. I think because it's a dark comedy.
Yeah. I think dark comedies are hard for people. We love them, but they're not something that the everyday person just sits down and watches for shits and giggles, for entertainment.
Right.
But I think this movie has a lot of really good stuff. I think the one-liners and the banter, like you said, is just some of the best that has ever been written. Like it's quick, and you have to watch it multiple times to really get everything they're saying. Yeah,
and it's a dry sense of humor, especially the scenes between Cusack and Arkin and Cusack and Aykroyd.
And Cusack very dry. And Piven, they're very.
And Piven, right? Those two have they grew up together, so they have that dynamic where
picked all the right people for this role, and knowing all the people have a relationship with Cusack, except for Minnie Driver, which they may have before this, that I don't know about. Their chemistry was really great.
It was great
for someone like she's definitely an outsider when you look at the cast because she's British, and they're all like these Detroit people.
But back then, I didn't know she was British.
I did.
I don't think I did when I saw this I first saw it.
You didn't see the movie Circle of Friends.
I did not. Right, so I didn't see that. Yeah, so I had no idea, but. Yeah, here's an interesting question I thought about too. Do you think that in Say Anything, if John Cusack's character, Lloyd Dobler, if he would have gone the other way, that would have been him?
There is a lot of Lloyd Dobler in Martin Blank, I think, but at the same time, I don't think Lloyd was as intelligent as Martin Blank.
No, I don't either.
I get the impression that Martin was like kind of your quiet, emo, evil genius in high school, like that really quiet kid that was really smart and going to do something.
Had a few friends, but although a lot of people knew him though, which was
because I think he was like he wasn't like the athlete or anything like that.
I don't think he was the popular. He wasn't the jock. He wasn't he was a nondescript that didn't fit into any mold, but he was intelligent. You knew he was intelligent. The teachers knew him. Right, the teachers did know. But again, like he had a lot of people. Maybe that's because he disappeared, and maybe they talked about him for how many years.
And I think Lloyd Dobler was just your genuinely nice person that everyone knew because he was so kind and friendly and a good guy.
Right.
So, but there is a lot of similarities with the typical John Cusack way of talking and his mannerisms and his good-naturedness. Even though he's a professional killer, he has a good-natured quality to him at the same time.
Well, that's the thing I thought of, only because, and not only for that reason, because it's John Cusack, but he dispenses of someone with a fountain pen, and in the movie Say Anything, she has to break up, she gives him a pen, and he goes, I gave her my heart and she gave me a pen. So I mean, maybe that I don't know whether that was
meant to happen.
Yeah, I
Like,
don't know whether it was
I didn't think
intentional,
about
but
that, yeah.
that was a nice, you know,
Nice.
it wasn't. It was a nice little nod.
Yeah, definitely.
And one of the things that I love about this movie is the soundtrack.
I didn't remember how great that soundtrack was. Like if you like any music from when is this, mid-80s?
Well, this is the 80s, right?
Yeah, really good music.
Like, I mean, it's almost any time, except for that first song, which is again,
it's
I started
more
thinking
alternative.
it is more alternative,
Except for that
right?
first song.
Yeah, it's. I mean, the Clash is you know, Pete
Echo and the
Townsend.
Bunnymen.
God, who did Mirror? English Pete, who did Mirror in the Bathroom?
Right.
Yeah, Nina, 99 Luftballons.
Yeah, but they also play the guy. I'm not going to remember at the reunion when they're dancing. What's that song they play when he sees the baby?
Oh, yeah, I can't remember either.
Yeah.
I can't remember what the name is. Yeah, that's actually just a great. Oh, well, one is Under Pressure.
Right.
So yeah, he does play Under Pressure by Queen and David Bowie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So well, I noticed it, and I never noticed it before, probably because sometimes I don't pay attention to the credits. But the opening credits said that the music was done, obviously not the, you know, every song was done, but it said music was done by Joe Strummer, who was with the Clash and the Pogues, which is. I never knew that. I mean, that was just kind of an odd thing to see. So, I mean, like there were a lot of really good people, really talented people involved in this film.
Yeah, and
it is. I would honestly say that it is one of my. It's one of my top films of the '90s.
Mm-hmm.
It might even be in my top 5 because it's so
just of the '90s.
Just of the '90s, okay. Right? Just of the '90s, yeah.
You know, I don't know dates. I could never do that.
I know. Yeah, this was '97.
My top 25 movies of all time that I can just sit and watch.
It's that good, and they don't show it enough.
No.
I never see it anywhere. Which, you know, again, so we'll do the, you know, ask the question to you. You know, would you be glued to the set? Would you be doom scrolling and peeking at the screen, or would you be just changing the channel at this point? You know, if you saw Grosse Pointe Blank come on, what would you choose?
I'd most likely stop whatever I'm doing and just watch it.
I would be glued to the set,
but I do have one flaw in this movie, and I'm sure you're not going to agree with me.
Okay.
I do like how it's like it's you know, it's him finding himself again, but at the same time, it's also that whole you can't go home again, because he actually does try to go to his house. In his house, Jeremy Piven, the real estate agent, sold the property, and now it's a Quick Mart or something like that. So he actually can't even go home to his house. And his mother, I think the whole idea of they didn't need to show us his mother. I didn't like that. I didn't like him going to see.
No, I agree. It's a little awkward for the movie.
Yeah, it doesn't fit in with everything else. And then he talks later about he didn't have such a great childhood, which is, I don't know, it almost like it took a turn for like deep emotional thing and it
almost like they wanted to go a little bit darker, but then pulled back.
Yeah,
for some, which was a good idea.
Yeah, but they never talked about his father. You knew he died because his mother's saying something about his father, and he's like, "No, I'm Martin." So you knew that the father either died or left, but I always got the impression he died.
He did die because that's the grave he visited.
Oh yeah, you're right. Okay,
yeah, so he did die, but
it was a very like that whole part of the movie is the only part I really don't like, because it shows this side of Martin, like, you know, we didn't need to know he didn't have a great childhood and then he became a hitman. I didn't need to know that he didn't have a very good relationship with his father, because I got the sense that in that scene he didn't like his father. I
got that sense too. Yeah, and
it's just out of place.
Right, it is a little awkward. Yeah, yeah. If there's one, I agree with you. No, I see you thought I wouldn't, but I do.
Didn't think you would.
Yeah, I always think that's just very.
Talked about that.
No, we didn't, and that's why because, like I said, it's a very odd choice for them to do, because I noticed that too, and like one of the things I was thinking about. You know, he obviously we talked about the relationship with his parents weren't maybe great. I don't know.
Yeah, they weren't. But he wasn't close with his parents at all.
Yeah, it was complicated. Definitely not healthy.
No.
But I mean, it is brief enough just to let you know maybe this is why Martin was all screwed up.
Right.
Maybe
but I
didn't
care to know why he was all screwed up.
Right.
Like I liked his reason. You know, I didn't know what to do, so I just joined the army. They gave me a test and found out I had a certain, I forget what he calls it, that he
like
was
dispensation to be
he was able to kill and not care that much about it.
Right.
So they trained him to be a hitman. I was fine with that being all we needed to know of Martin. I didn't need to know that he had a shitty childhood.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said, I agree with you. That scene it just feels out of place.
Predictable. It's almost like, every serial killer, every hitman, you know, had a bad childhood, was abused, whatever. And it was just too predictable and too It almost like they did that extra just to put it in so people would like Martin because he didn't have good parents. I liked Martin.
Right. Cusack makes Martin likable.
Right.
It's the actor that makes him.
Right.
Yeah.
Nobody else could have played that role where you actually love the hitman. Like you really like him as a person. Like he's just funny and he's a good person and he really believes he's not doing anything bad.
He does.
I mean, so that part's the only part of the movie I didn't like.
No, I completely agree with you there. But I thought about this too. If I think of all the movie characters that I've ever seen, and you could pick a couple that you'd want to interview, just the character, not John Cusack, the actor,
but Martin
Blank. I would love to speak to Martin Blank. Yes. I think he'd be an interesting person to talk to. Hopefully not before he killed me. Hopefully it was after his, maybe his little crisis of faith that he had. But not to say he's not going to do anything again. We don't know. We almost don't know where it's headed when the film ends.
See, I got the feeling that he's back with the love of his life, and she grounds him. She keeps him.
That's a feeling I got too. But
and who knows that they're gonna go off and just live this crazy happy life.
That could be the case. That really, that definitely could be the case. And you hope so because for his character, because you like him, and I like those two together. Like I said, they had just fantastic chemistry. Let's see. Was there anything else you could think of of the film? Like I said, when Chad and I used to talk about it, if he would call me or something, or I'd walk in and see him maybe out at the bar, and the one line is when Martin gets a telephone call, and it's from Grosse, who is Dan Aykroyd. And he goes, "Martin, where are you?" And Martin says, "I'm in Budapest." And Dan Aykroyd's character, he's just pulling up right next to him. He knows where he is.
Right.
And he's like, "Oh, there I see in the banks of the Danube, kid." We used to use those kind of lines to get back and forth because he knew that. He knew what I was talking about. Like I said, so few people have seen Grosse Pointe Blank that they would know how to respond to that.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of the poetry line. We say a lot to each other.
You're right. When he has for a while. And when you see the movie, you'll know what you're talking, but it's a great line.
Oh, and don't be too quick to judge.
Don't rush to judgment for all the facts are in.
We talked about this when we watched it, and this one I never really paid attention to. Jeremy Piven, you got a sense that they were good friends growing up, but maybe not best friends, but really good friends. And then at the reunion, Jeremy Piven helps him with something that you just don't do for someone you haven't seen in 10 years. But he just goes along with it and does it. And you're like, oh my God, you haven't seen him and you're helping him do this. And he was so nonchalant about it. But he goes, I just love that scene where they go back into the reunion and they're all bloody and messed up. And they're just like,
Right. And it's
what's going on.
Yeah. But he never directly asks him because at that moment, he believes him. Right. At that moment, he believes what Martin does. Right. And like I said, not, they didn't. They didn't first of all, he's kidding around. But at that point, it's well, now I kind of see that he was not lying to me, that, he's absolutely what he says he is.
And if anyone out there who knows this movie and you happen to listen to this podcast and you know what Minnie Driver is saying when he gives her the airplane, please let me know. Because I looked it up and I cannot find it. It's definitely another language.
It almost sounds like French or German, something like I couldn't really make it out.
Something, and I keep looking it up and I can't find it. And that is one of the cutest scenes too, I think, in the whole movie. It's very sweet and endearing. And you see it
shows their history. Right.
You see the high school young love there in that scene. And
yes.
He puts Minnie Driver he lays on his back, puts Minnie Driver on his feet, like her belly on his feet, and he lifts her up in the air and she pretends she's an airplane.
Right.
And she won't answer him until he does that for her. It was just so cute. And when she's up there flying, she says something, and it's just I just want to know what that is. It's very annoying.
And it's those little things too that make the movie, that make it's almost like a personal touch that someone had to have maybe done that or at some point in their lives, because that's something just it's difficult to conjure out of thin air.
Right.
Something like that. So usually that good stuff comes from personal experience, whether it's yours or somebody else's.
Right.
It's always nice to throw into, because if somebody else is going to use it for a story, you might as well.
Right.
In there. But I think, like I said, that this is a fantastic movie. Find it wherever you can. And usually you'll find it in a streaming service. Sometimes you have to pay for it. I just say buy it because it's that good of a movie. You'll want to watch it again and again. And sadly, I hadn't watched it for a while, but I said, well, this is the perfect one. other than, like I said, the other ones are Anchorman and Wedding Crashers, but this one was special because so few people know about it. Well, at least can quote it back and forth and appreciate it for what it is. And I'm glad you do. So
yes, very much so.
Good. All right. Well, is there anything else that you would like to discuss about the film that I haven't thought of, or that you've come up with?
No, I think the movie, it's just a good story, and it ends with it has a positive, happy ending. There's just a lot of cute in it at the same time being a black comedy. Like it kind of has everything.
It's got heart. It's endearing. It really
heart.
Is. So it got miles and miles of heart.
Miles and miles of heart.
Okay. All right. Well, hopefully we're definitely going to have you back again, because obviously you were here for the last one. We thought it might be some time before we did it again, but yeah, fortunately, again, fate has brought us, not us together, but for this reason, which is unfortunate.
I'm start charging you for
your services? Sure. Yes. I mean, as soon as it starts reeling in some cash, I'll be more than happy to fork it over. Yeah. So we'll come back and do another movie. We'll just have to find something.
Right.
Again, this was more recent than the last one, so it was more recent than the King of Comedy.
Right, definitely.
So we may do something even more recent next time around.
Yeah, something newer, maybe.
Correct. That's all I have for today. So as always, thank you for listening. If you liked it, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you're the first to know when new episodes become available on your favorite podcast platform. For Scenes from the Screen, I'm Sean, and until next time, don't let your screen go dark.